So, I'm a 44-year-old man. I know I don't look it, and thank you for saying so. I have spent 12 years living in Spain, which is a quarter of my life, half of my adult life. So I think and I hope you can tell me if I have earned the right to be pissed off about a few things in Spain, the right to complain. Today I'm going to share 12 of the things that piss me off about Spain, one for each year I have spent in this incredible, wonderful country. Now, I make this video with a little trepidation because I do genuinely love living in Spain, and I hope my almost 150 videos celebrating this country prove that. But anytime I respectfully call out something that annoys me about this country, I inevitably get the go home comments. So I'm excited to see how many go home comments I get today. But let's begin. And I'm going to ease you in gently. Okay, so I love Christmas in Spain, from the impossible to understand lottery to the huge feasts, to making myself sick daily with turrón mantecados and polvorones, aka dust cakes. But Christmas always takes a turn for the worse when these guys pop up. Not this brand in particular, but this product. If I had an arch nemesis, it would be canned white asparagus. They're invariably served by my mother-in-law on Christmas Eve or New Year's Eve, or if I'm lucky, both. You get a massive pile of them on your plate, and to make matters worse, they're served with this big gooey dollop of mayonnaise, and the whole family is groaning at how delicious they are while I eat them one by one, closing my eyes and thinking of Mother New Zealand. Oh. Even the smell makes me want to hide. And to make matters worse, they come in a variety of sizes, but including really big. So they come from normal to fat to very fat, muy grueso. And the big ones are called cojonudos, which kind of loosely translates as the dog's bollocks, because it's apparently what the former king said when he was served a plate of delicious and enormous canned white asparagus, presumably at Christmas Eve or New Year's Eve, or if he was lucky, both. But anyway, that's some light, hate-filled entertainment to sort of kick us off and get us in the mood. But now let's move on to some more serious topics. Welcome to the bosom of Spanish democracy. This is the Spanish Parliament, where the laws of the land are made. And yes, I have a beef with the men and women inside. You see, there are few things more frustrating than living in a country, loving a country, having a family in a country, paying taxes, starting businesses in a country, and yet you cannot vote in the national elections, because that is a privilege that is reserved for Spanish citizens, and I am a lowly permanent resident. Fair enough, you say, James. Just go ahead and get your Spanish citizenship. What's the big deal? Well, the thing is, to take Spanish citizenship, by Spanish law, I would have to renounce my New Zealand citizenship, and I don't really want to do that to my mother. Look, in a practical sense, I could have both citizenships and nobody would really care, but should I have to be able to vote? And as I looked into this more, I learned it's actually a thing. There's a whole Wikipedia page on what's called non-citizen suffrage. And it turns out that requiring people to be citizens in order to vote is more the rule than the exception. See, here I am as a naive New Zealander thinking that was how it was everywhere, because in New Zealand, you only have to be a permanent resident to vote. But these guys in the Spanish Parliament aren't going to change it. So let's see what my fellow Spaniards think.
Soy neozelandés, llevo 12 años en España, tengo una hija aquí, un negocio, pago impuestos. ¿Crees que debería tener el derecho a votar en las elecciones generales? Sí. Muchas gracias.
So there you have it. The people of Spain have spoken. I should be able to vote along with my fellow permanent residents. So come on, guys, change the law. No, café solo, por favor. Qué bien. Okay, so there is nothing quite like sitting down in a Spanish bar in the morning for breakfast and soaking up the atmosphere, the buzz of the patrons, the shouts of the waiters, the hiss of the coffee machine, the smell of churros. Everything in the world is perfect until you take a sip of the coffee. Welcome to the wonderful world of Torrefacto. If you've never heard of it, it's a historically fascinating yet gastronomically terrifying process whereby sugar is burnt onto the outside of the coffee bean. It originated, I believe, in Mexico, where miners would use this process to preserve their coffee when they were taking it down underground for months at a time. And it was brought to Spain because it was a great way to ship coffee around the country without it spoiling. And the tradition for our sins continues today in Spain, meaning that when you drink straight black espresso coffee in a bar, it'll taste bitter, kind of acrid, with hints of the apocalypse. And in fact, I believe that the fact that most Spaniards will drink their black coffee with sugar or with milk, café con leche, is to mask the flavor, the true flavor of the coffee, because without either of those things, you really are exposed to the true taste of the abomination. I don't want to cast shade on this fantastic bar, Taberna Real. They're just serving the coffee that's traditional here in Spain. But if you're in Madrid and you want a spot to grab a vermouth and an excellent plate of jamón ibérico de bellota, acorn-fed ham, this is your spot. To be fair, the coffee in Spain is getting better, for my taste anyway, less and less Torrefacto. So much so that I fear that one day I might actually miss the flavor of Torrefacto, because it will be the flavor, however bitter, of the Spain that I fell in love with. Which brings me to my next hate that I have about Spain, and that is change. So when I first moved to Spain, I fell in love, deeply in love, not just with Yoli, but with Madrid. I loved wandering this historic center, this quiet historic center, sort of a mysterious part of the city, and stumbling across old man bars that were full of locals and little shops that were selling, things that the neighbors needed, little idiosyncratic shops, little curiosities like this one, this fantastic secondhand bookshop that's just tucked away here. In short, what I loved was Madrid's idiosyncrasy. But over the years, I've watched as that idiosyncrasy has been eroded as a lot of chains and franchises have moved in, and the mom and pop shops, those small neighborhood shops, have been pushed out. For example, when I used to give tours here, food tours, about 8 or so years ago, this money changer here on the corner was just a tiny little old man bar, a local old man bar, just like you see all over Spain. It was right here in the Puerta del Sol. And the idea of an old man bar here in the Puerta del Sol now is just unthinkable. Or this place here, this was one of my favorite bars in the center of Madrid, Cerveriz, that they sold the best tortilla in the city. You can almost see the name up there. And now it's a premier burger bar because it's right here, right by the Mercado at San Miguel, right in the center of Madrid. Look, I know what you're thinking, or at least what you should be thinking. You're thinking, but James, this is touristification that causes this, and you're partly to blame for that. And also, you benefit from it. Look, in the videos that I make and in Devour Tours as well, I've always tried to celebrate the idiosyncratic places, the mom and pop shops, and help those thrive. And I think to some extent, I've been successful at that, but I realize there's an undesired spillover effect. It's part of the reason that from now on, I want to make more videos that celebrate the off the beaten path parts of Spain, the less known parts. So now you're thinking, James, you're going to destroy those as well? Look, let's not overplay my influence here, but I did want to share this because I felt like it's the elephant in the room, and I love making videos about this country and celebrating my love for this country, but it still frustrates me, the changes that I see in Madrid. Hola, ¿qué tal? Dime. Oye, te voy a parar. Es que... Sí. Es que me has llamado 10 veces hoy, ya. Bueno, es que no puedo más, por favor, no puedo, no quiero tu oferta, aunque sea la mejor oferta de mi vida. Por favor, déjame en paz. Okay, that was a terrible reenactment, but I can't handle the spam phone calls in Spain. They're out of control. So it'll generally play out like this. You're in the middle of something that is really hard to do at the same time as speak on the phone, such as cooking dinner or changing the baby's nappy, and someone will call you. You pick up, there'll be silence for a moment, then a click, and then a voice that sounds like they're 10,000 miles away and in a room with 10,000 other muffled voices will greet you overly politely and then try and sell you the world's best mobile phone offer. And sometimes there's nobody there, and you just listen to silence saying, hola, hola, as if somewhere, someone is watching you. But spam phone calls have increased massively in Spain since the pandemic. We're now ranked 5 in the world, with the average person receiving 18 a month, which is nothing quite like the Brazilians. They get 50 a month. I mean, the Brazilians must be on the phone listening to silence and being watched and being sold mobile phone contracts all the time. There is a list you can sign up for called the Robinson list that legally companies should check it before they call you. It's to opt out of these calls, but it worked a little bit for me, but it didn't really work for Yoli at all. And the insidious part is that sometimes these aren't just spam phone calls, they're scam phone calls, often trying to trick people into changing electricity companies, and often they get older people who aren't as savvy with this kind of thing. But funny story, I actually received a spam phone call just when I was preparing this part of the video. I tried to explain the irony to the person who called me, but sadly, they didn't get it. Okay, so the next topic is an important one, and that's racism. Look, Spain is a country where casual racism is relatively common, and perhaps more frustrating is the inability or unwillingness of a lot of people to see racism for what it is when it's right in front of them. Let me give you a couple of examples. One, this famous candy here, this much-loved candy called Conguitos. This brand was created in the early 60s, in a totally different time, actually just after Congo achieved independence. Now, the name of the candy, Conguitos, doesn't really mean anything, but it suggests a diminutive form of people from the Congo, sort of little Congolese or little people from the Congo. And the mascot is a black man, a sort of a round, chubby black man with big red lips. So in other words, it's a branding that's from a total different time and should be retired. Now, there was pushback against this in 2020, about the same time as the Black Lives Matter protests, and the brand La Casa responded to the criticism. They said a couple of things. One was that the actual mascot doesn't represent a person from the Congo or even a person. They said it just represents two candies on top of each other, which obviously is ridiculous. And they also said, we also have white Conguitos, white chocolate Conguitos, and those are represented by a white character. And there's a parallel to that response in this next story about Spain's Christmas parade. So every year in Spain, there are Christmas parades, and it's the three wise men who brought the gifts to Jesus who parade through the town dressed up. Now, traditionally, one of these men, Baltasar, is represented as a black man. The idea is he's a black man or a Middle Eastern man. And there's a tradition in Spain, there's a practice of a white man dressing up in blackface to represent Baltasar. Now, this happens a lot less than it used to, rightly so, but it still happens. And so it happened this year in some places, and in one place, Igualada, a town in Catalonia, a white man dressed up in blackface to represent this character. Now, there was protest about this, there was outrage, and the organizers of the parade responded, which I think, again, is telling. They said, participation for this celebration is open to the entire population without any type of distinction or discrimination. They went on to say, for those that dress up, i.e. in blackface, it's an honor, it's not a degrading thing. Now, let me be really clear, because when I talk about this topic, it always kind of blows up in the comments, understandably. I am not saying that all Spaniards are racist, but I'm giving two clear examples where racism is allowed to pass muster today in Spain on a corporate level and on an institutional level, and where the people who are propagating that don't make a change and actually push back against it, showing this sort of inability or unwillingness to recognize it for what it is. Now, having said that, I do want to hear what your thoughts are and your perspectives in the comments, particularly people who live in Spain. So drop your thoughts in the comments and let's try and have a civil conversation about it. So recently on Instagram, I said that one of the things I find frustrating about Spain is the level of customer service, that it's not good. And I got some pushback, and that was fair enough, because people said, rightly, that not all customer service is bad in Spain. So if you go to your local corner bar, your local corner hardware store, your local corner hairdressers, it's going to be great. Anything in your neighborhood is going to be great and personal. But the minute you have to deal with a big company in Spain, namely internet companies, mobile phone companies, insurance companies, banks, it's going to be horrendous. Now, recently I've had some really negative experiences with banks, so I'm going to single those guys out for this one. So in short, I hate dealing with banks in Spain. Okay, first example. So recently Yoli had a question about an insurance policy that we have with an insurance company, but through our bank. Effectively, her question was about a specific thing I want to know. Do I deal directly with the insurance company or do I go through the bank? And so she called up our personal banker at Bank Inter, our bank. Now, note, this is not our actual branch to protect the identity of the very rude person that Yoli spoke to. So Yoli called the personal banker and asked innocently who she should be dealing with in this situation. Note that the job of the personal banker is to answer questions, but the personal banker completely wrung her out. Yoli should have known that she should have called the info line of the bank directly and not called and bothered the personal banker. She scolded her and told her off. Ironically, she also answered Yoli's question. But what this illustrates is no matter how asinine or innocent or banal your dealing with a bank might be or your question might be, invariably it will end in confrontation. Also, the banks have incredibly short hours in which you can actually do things at the branches. Inevitably, when you go, it will be too late to do that thing that you needed to do. So if you arrive at 11:05 a.m., you could only have done that thing that you needed to do between 9 a.m. and 11 a.m. It's as if the bank staff work with such angry intensity that they can only sustain it for short periods of time. So there's something strange that happens sometimes when I get my hair cut in Spain. I'll be chatting to the hairdresser and, at some point they will say invariably, "Oh, where are you from?" And I will say, "New Zealand, Nueva Zelanda." And at that point they'll pause for a moment and they'll say, "Ooh, it must be very cold up there." And I'll think, up there? And then I realize, and I say this has happened about 3 times while I'm getting my hair cut, that they think that New Zealand is somewhere in Northern Europe, deep in Northern Europe. It could be the Netherlands, it's not quite clear. And this doesn't just happen with hairdressers. I don't mean to pick on hairdressers. It happens with bartenders, taxi drivers, the kind of people who you don't know them, but you just engage in a little bit of chit chat and, open up a little bit about yourself. And so what I say now when they ask is I say, I'm from New Zealand next to Australia. They pause for a moment and say, "Ooh, it must be really hot down there." But to be honest, this doesn't really bother me that much. I know New Zealand is a small place and there's plenty of countries that I couldn't place on a map or wouldn't be quite sure where they're from. But there is a variation of this that does get my goat a little bit. And this often happens with people who maybe I've been working with them a little bit and at some point they will ask me a question about where I'm from or they'll introduce me to a colleague of theirs and they'll say, "This is James, he's English." So next up, nepotism. Now, nepotism is rife in Spanish society, in all levels of Spanish society, from the corner store, small businesses, right up to the highest echelons of government. And why it really frustrates me is because I see a lot of businesses struggle in this country, and although nepotism isn't the only reason, it's like they're not putting their best foot forward if they're hiring cousins to do their translations or their website instead of getting the best person for the job. But it's quite hard to hate this aspect of Spanish society because it comes from a good place. In the end, this is a society where family networks and friend networks are really strong. And if someone in a family is struggling, then it's kind of the whole family's problem to gather around and try and provide help to that person. But to understand nepotism in Spain properly, I feel like we should talk to a Spaniard. So let's cross live to our Spanish correspondent. Yoli?
Yeah? Oh, hi.
Question, do you think Spanish people think nepotism is a problem?
I don't think they find a problem. There's entropy everywhere in this country, so it's like they see it all very normal. Why would I give this job to anyone else but my cousin, They will see the problem only if maybe politicians do it, like someone in parliament. They will be very critical about that, but they don't realize that they did that last week with their cousin,
Do you have a problem with nepotism?
Yeah, totally, and I've never practiced it.
Very good.
That I can recall.
Correct. Okay, huddle up, because there's a cultural phenomenon in this country that really drives me nuts. And it's something that I think degrades the quality of our society and impacts significantly on Spain's productivity. Here's the thing, in Spain, employers and employees
Okay, what I was about to say and what I regret saying was that employers and employees hate each other. But that's not true. That's too strong. What there is deep mistrust between employees and employers. Okay, back to the video.
All too often, employers think that employees are lazy and trying to rip them off, and employees think that employers are greedy and trying to take advantage of them. Case in point, I have a friend who was recently working at a deli in Madrid. It got to the end of the first month and it was payday. She got her pay slip and it was 30% short. She went to her boss and she was like, hey, I'm missing some money here. The boss pulled out an envelope of cash and handed it to her. That was the missing 30%. He paid her in cash. Now, she knew exactly what was going on because this is a very common occurrence. What he was doing was paying her the 30% in cash so that he didn't have to pay the social security contributions on that 30%. The upshot is she doesn't get that 30% put towards her retirement or unemployment fund. But again, she knew exactly what was going on because it happens so often. Now, I know what some people are thinking. They're thinking, James, social security contributions are so high in Spain. The small company couldn't afford it. This was a big company that is all over the country. They should have paid her properly, right? But for me, the whole skimping on the pay thing and the fact that it's really common is just indicative of how screwed up the employment relationships are in this country. So, did you know that Spain invented red tape? Literally, Charles I of Spain in the 16th century decided that he needed to modernize the bureaucracy of the country, and so he started wrapping important documents that needed high-level attention in red tape. Ironically, it didn't work. So it means that Spain, as well as being the granddaddy of red tape, continues to excel at making people's lives miserable with it. And bureaucracy in Spain is such a cliche that I almost didn't include it. But then I stumbled across something. I stumbled across this email and I just thought I need to get this email into this video. It is remarkable. More about that email in a moment. You see, I, as many of you know, run a course, an online course that helps people move to Spain, helps people relocate to Spain, called the Move to Spain Masterclass. And I experienced through the people who take the course all levels of Spanish bureaucracy at its most miserable. And so I wanted to share with you 3 aspects of Spanish bureaucracy that really do piss me off. First of all, nobody ever knows the answer to your question. And it could be the most simple question about how to do some sort of bureaucratic process, but nobody knows the answer. In fact, it almost seems like the answer doesn't exist. And so if you ask someone in the bureaucracy for how to do that thing, what is the list of documents that I need? It's always kind of like, well, it depends. They'll kind of dodge the answer and you're like, well, what does it depend on? And they'll be like, maybe it depends on the region of Spain you live in, maybe it depends on the time of day, and maybe it depends, or often it depends, on the person you're dealing with, the actual bureaucrat you're dealing with. But it means that every process is kind of shrouded in mystery. And the second one is that any bureaucratic document or website is always written in the most cryptic, formal language so that people have no ability, even if they're native Spanish speakers who, have studied philosophy and technical writing, they can't understand it. It's a mixture of vagueness and highly formal writing, and it's almost as if that the bureaucrats think that by writing in clear Spanish, they'll be giving up some sort of power, which of course they don't want to do. Or maybe they think that if they write it in normal Spanish, then, in a way they're not doing their job. Their job is to write like bureaucrats. Third, and this is where we return to this email here, this wonderful email, the Spanish bureaucracy is incredibly and fascinatingly technologically inept. So this email is an automatic reply that I received to an email I sent to a Spanish consulate in the United States. Although it's outside of Spain, it's still part of the Spanish bureaucracy, a core part of the Spanish bureaucracy. And I would like to meet the person who wrote this email. I would like to get into their mind. I think they should be studied. It is wonderful, don't you think? It's only missing emojis and Comic Sans. Okay, last one. And if you don't already, you're gonna think I'm a bit of a Grinch after this one, but I think it's something that would drive you crazy too. So I love how gregarious Spanish culture is. This is a country where people will stop and chat and spend the time without looking at their watch and really be happy in your company. But there's an aspect of this gregariousness that I just can't handle. and it's called the long Spanish goodbye. So picture this, you're at a party with your friends or maybe your partner, and you agree as a group or with your partner that it's time to leave, it's time to get going. Now, international custom dictates that from the moment of agreeing to leave as a group or as a couple, you have about 10 minutes to get out the door. But that rule doesn't apply in Spain. Here, the Spaniard will spend the next hour slowly inching towards the door and engaging in any potential conversation that comes their way. Maybe they'll see someone they haven't spoken to yet while they're on their way to the bathroom for a wee before they go. Or they'll realize there's something they haven't mentioned to that person they've been talking to for the last 4 hours. And look, I wouldn't mind this if it was agreed that we're not going to leave for another hour, and I would just get another drink and enjoy myself. But what I can't handle is living for an hour in this kind of goodbye no man's land. Okay, but I do remind you, after all of this, I do love living in this wonderful country. In fact, there was only one thing that I hate about Spain that I couldn't fit into this list. It's those really long pillows that you get in hotel rooms, almost medieval pillows where you can't kind of get your arm under it to get comfortable. Yeah, I hate those too. But this is not going to be a long goodbye. I'll see you in the next video, and I promise it's going to be full of Spain love, butterflies, and joy. Bye-bye.